couple of other ones. For example, we have a 5th grade teacher moving to be into a new Dean of Students position. Congratulations, Colleen Lautenbach.
Thank you.
So that will be impacting our board elections when we get to that discussion later as well, because as a Dean of Students, you can't remain on the board next year. Yes. And so that's the downside of that. But Colleen's finishing her first year of a 2-year program to get a principal license, and Dean of Students is really a good position to working in that process. So that's a positive. And we have fallen just a couple ADM below what we're budgeted for right now, which was a concern when we closed in February in that discussion. So, but we still are in good shape budget-wise overall. It's close enough where we're in good shape. And the expansion, here at the upper school building, they are close to completing the demo of the existing space. Anybody wants to get a quick look in there, put a hard hat on and go show you on the way out tonight. They will be breaking ground in some ways on the added space in the next week or two, but we'll have an official ceremony right before the next board meeting for groundbreaking on the additional space. And with that, I'll leave it to questions.
The only people left then is the daycare?
Only people left is the daycare, and right now they have a lease that goes through 2031 with an option to extend, so they may be here for a while. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll move over to Colleen for our financial reports if there's no other questions.
Okay. Just like Jonas mentioned, we have an enrollment of 1,999 and a projected surplus of $175,296, and a year-end fund balance of 3.2 million, or 20% of expenditures. The covenant compliance has us at 54 days of cash on hand. We talked about the payroll accruals and benefit discussions. We were talking about summer payroll and how teachers are paid throughout the whole year, not just the school year.
Is that everybody, or is it a choice per teacher choice?
That's a good question.
For teachers, it's everybody.
It's an everybody. But paras and other hourly staff, they're paid for what they work, the hours they work.
Paras is, come back to paras. For
Okay.
admin staff, for office staff, for people that are 12 months, it's spread out. The year starts July 1st for your payments and ends on June 30th. For everybody else, for teachers who they start working is in August, they get their first check on August 30th and their last check on August 15th of the following year. Our paras right now are in between, well, paras are the hours they work. We have to kind of do that because we have to so tightly track any hours that are not spent in special education. In other words, if we have somebody hired as a special education para, but we have them supervising an area where they're not supervising special ed students, we have to code that differently and not get reimbursed for it. And so we kind of have to do hourly because we have to track those hours.
So it's like a 2-week pay period, and then they get paid for whatever was that 2 weeks?
Yeah, but yes. Yes.
We were talking about the reclassification and the budget shifting for the eligible school expenditures, such as utilities and other equipment, onto the building company, so they can be reimbursed from the U.S. Bank Trust account that we have. We learned that several school expenditures were reclassified to the building company for reimbursement through the U.S. Bank account. We're talking also about special education reimbursement. we shall be getting a projected additional payment around April 30th that will change receivables. Yeah. We were talking, Jonas mentioned a little bit about the long-term projections. During the years of 2030 to 2032, there might be some change in the long-range projections that we have for the reduction of cash on hand. So that was something that we're going to look into talking more about at the next meeting. And then there's also, just like Jonas mentioned, the potential lease option that would impact the daycare tenants until 2036. Any questions?
Are they is the daycare locked in at a certain rate?
That's a good question.
I have a question about that with the renewal part of it. They are locked in until 2031 with a certain percentage increase. I'm not sure about the renewal, because I have to look into that.
I'm not suggesting that we should go out to them because that would not be neighborly. I just was wondering if, what that increase would look like.
Usually it's detailed in the lease.
Yeah, and I have seen, I just can't remember the exact number.
Because
But-
it is nice revenue for us, but I think we need to make sure that we're being kind neighbors, because it's best to be kind.
Absolutely.
And those children could be our students one day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that there is a potential partnership that could happen.
I was just gonna ask that, that would be great.
I mean, I don't know what that would look legally or whatever, but I know that at a high school level, I was able to take, you could do sociology, you could do early childhood development, you could do, your babysitter's class down there, you could do a whole bunch of different child development, so it just,
No, and as we get more juniors and seniors, that will be worth exploring more.
my daughter's friends did it as freshmen, so.
And we have facts
Yeah.
with the teachers
Yeah.
here that where it would fit.
Right.
Couple of years too, so.
Does that daycare, have you ever thought about, I know when my children go to daycare, there's a school it's a private school that's very close by, and they've always advertised for it as, being close to fall, here's.
It's a little tricky.
I don't
It's a
know,
little tricky down there.
but they're a
because-
tenant too.
Because it's
so-
a different type of daycare, from as I understand it,
Okay.
where it's supplemental daycare. It's really daycare that's there for people that don't have daycare all the time, that need it just occasionally, or people when their daycare is closed
Okay.
as a backup. And so it's different kids that are there day to day, week to week,
Sure.
which can be a little bit, we can still certainly hope to advertise there, but
Mhm.
it does create some challenges, like if you want to do a partnership, it's different kids, and you have to get permission, from different parents come in. That's how I understand it, it's been explained to me, but it's definitely worth having some more conversations with them. And we definitely want to explore any opportunities, and even within service learning, is there anything we can do? We've been pretty proud with our, I guess one thing I probably should have included in the superintendent report was we've really ramped up the service learning the second half of the year here at the upper school, in grades 8, 9, and 10. Number of really cool programs going on. We'll try and present on those in the next couple months, some of the projects we're doing. But as a kind of a one-shot deal side thing, our upper school students picked up 800 pounds of trash from our property yesterday afternoon.
And received 800 ticks as a.
Maybe some of those students could come to our meeting, and not just their teachers, but maybe some of the kids could be here to present.
That'd be
Yeah.
great, yeah.
They used to do videos.
Yes.
Oh,
They used
agenda?
to do a video thing each month of
Service projects?
Yeah.
Yeah, my first year.
Oh, that's
For you
great.
guys.
Oh, why didn't I know that? We should be doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
Alright. make a motion to approve the March financials and approve the April committee minutes.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Turn it over to Joe.
All right, so governance met on April 7th, and part of what we talked about was policy 103, which came up at the last board, so it was submitted with the packet for the final reading and approval for tonight. We talked about 417, which we decided to table. Cass was going to do some more research to see what's required with that, specifically with Minnesota statutes. And we also dug into policy 303, and we also decided to table that as we're going to do some more research with what's required with that as well. We started to look at some other example policies, and one thing we wanted to bring up to the board as a discussion, I think, from what we talked about, was what do we think the cadence should be or requirement for background checks? Should it be like 3 to 5, 3 years, 5 years? I think that's more in line from what we understood from other schools and their policies versus every year.
So what's in statute is, the only thing that's in statute is that you're required to do it when you hire new employees.
Mhm.
Our practice, which is not in policy, our practice has been we redo them every year for every employee, which is very much on the,
Cost.
looking at, well, it's just on the extreme end of it, like, there's a lot of districts that only do it at hire. There's a lot of districts you looked at schools that have it every 3 years, or 3 to 5 years, or 5 years. And, I mean, every year, place, it costs to do it every year, place has to fill out a form every year. It's a pretty time-consuming, tedious process what we do that's pretty far above and beyond what my experience of the norm has been and what the norm appears to be looking at other schools. And I think it is worth, I mean, people can have a clean background check when you hire them, and something that's even from before they're hired them might show up on it 6 months later. So there's some, reasons that could catch something, but it seems like if we even went to every 3 years, we'd still be on the, from what I can tell, on the more aggressive side, the more cautious side, I guess I would say. That might be a little bit more reasonable. But our background policy doesn't really lay out right now specifically how long we do it. It's practice that I inherited. And so I do think we were talking, like, government maybe was interested in just initial reactions before we before we go back and,
Get a gauge from the board.
get a gauge before we
Instead of just, here it is.
recommend something for first reading. Right, isn't that kind of?
And
what we-
also the policy needs to be updated
Yeah.
anyway.
Anyways,
So
yeah.
it would be a good time to update what we have to what other schools have and align it to that. And make sure that we're aligning to either what we should or,
And one thing, current theme, as we've been talking through these, is probably going to be to switch the policy number from 303 to 404, which matches better with other schools. That way, if down the road you're doing research, you can see, well, what's 404 at these
Just in
schools,
terms of numbers.
just to match up.
Just so the numbers match what's going on.
Yeah. So, yeah. I don't
We're not sure how a few of them got numbered the way they did in our policies. Most of them are aligned with what the MSBA policy models are that most schools have. There's a few that seem to not be, right?
A few of ours are off, yeah.
Can it be something like every 3 years, but where there's any concerns presented, they can be required to do it sooner?
or upon
Well-
request, like 3 years or
Mhm.
upon request.
Like, let's say you get an email from someone that says, not sure if you heard, but so-and-so got a DWI in our
Exactly.
town last weekend, thought you should know. Like,
Exactly.
wait 6 months and request a
Mhm.
thing. I mean, not that we would
So the
fire someone for a DUI unless they had
Right.
kids in the car or something like that, but,
But a pattern.
but a pattern.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You could say, we'll do at.
Minimally
a
every 3?
Minimum of every 3 years,
Mhm.
like that.
But where-
But maybe more often at the discretion of the school leader,
Yeah.
resources, or, you know.
Do you ask when you interview before making an appointment if they've ever been convicted of a crime?
In writing, yes. It's not in the interview.
Right.
It's on
The paper?
the paperwork that go out.
Does this affect volunteers, background checks?
I think that that is included in a lot of the samples that I saw. It is in there that everything that is required of above is also required of volunteers. So anybody that would be a new volunteer would need to have a background check, and then their background check would need to be done whatever amount of time. And we could make that change for volunteers, that it would be required every year, if that was something, and it could be in that writing piece. It's like employees might be every 3, but the volunteers would be asked to do it.
Yearly.
And I don't know if we use the same background check, because there's different levels of background checks that you can do. There's higher background checks that might be done for employees, but maybe lower level for volunteers, I don't know. Or if it's all the same for our school. I'm
Like
not sure.
if
Do
you just come to lunch, you don't need a
Anything?
background check, but that Raptor system does something brief.
Yes, sure,
It's mini.
right.
But if you're gonna volunteer in a classroom where you
Yes.
might walk a kid to the bathroom, you need to
Yeah,
have a-
or be on a field trip overnight to
Overnight,
wherever
yeah.
you go. Like,
Yeah.
I'd like to keep volunteers yearly.
I agree.
Maybe every year for that one.
I agree.
You want volunteers to be yearly, but employees every 3 years.
Or more frequent.
Or upon request, or minimum
Upon
3
discretion
years,
of-
or some kind of wording like that, right?
Yeah.
Is there a preference between the two, the calling it minimum of 3 years versus 3 years or upon request, or does anybody feel strongly one way or the other on that? Just throwing it out there.
I'm just thinking about the implications of the volunteers. So can you say again the rationale why we want to do volunteers every year?
If they're going to the 5th grade overnight field trip, I would think if something happened in the
Yes.
last 2.5 years, I'd.
For the fifth
You-
grade, when I field trip, okay, I get
I
that.
mean,
yeah.
things like that, or any field trip where they're bringing kids to bathrooms and whatnot.
Yeah, okay.
And, I mean, you don't have eyes on people. You've got eyes on people here, you don't have eyes on parents to know culturally,
no,
or
yeah,
grandparent, or,
yeah,
you know, whatever.
Yeah, no, you told me, I just thinking it through that, how much, like for sure in the overnight, I see that and bring kids to the bathroom if we have that kind of thing.
I
You
wouldn't
already
think that-
don't need one to just have lunch.
I wouldn't think the volunteer thing would be that big of a burden, because.
It's already every year for volunteers anyway.
It is
Yeah, so
already,
that's what we've
or
been
do
doing.
they volunteer every year too? Like, they might,
Right.
yeah, I'm gonna do the overnight this year, I don't do anything for 2 years, then you can.
You're not required to volunteer.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. If there's anything else, the only other thing we had is we shared the board calendar.
Hey,
Is that- I don't know,
Can
bring
I
it
come
up?
back? One
Oh, yeah,
thought
yeah.
that's popped in my head now.
Yeah.
But we want to supervise do we want to consider separating volunteering where you might be alone with the students versus volunteering where you're not alone with students? You know, like if you're in the classroom, kids know have to come in and help the teacher in the classroom.
I don't think.
From a teacher perspective, no.
No.
Because sometimes they might run a kid to the bathroom, sometimes they might, there's too many opportunities
Yes.
where they could be alone with the child.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
yeah.
Just throwing it out.
And I love having volunteers, so I'm not
You're
trying to
right.
be, I love having them.
Volunteers are
So
great.
you know as
Yeah.
well, when you flash your ID in our front, it does a mini background check as well, not nearly as thorough, but it runs through there as well, just
Yeah.
as a thought.
Well, again, I'd rather be too cautious than the other way around, so.
Yeah.
And I would think for tracking, it'd be, okay, you have, your background check was this, so you can do this level of something for volunteering. I think that would just be a mess
It's
to.
easier to just see the dates when I'm looking at parents for stuff, like I can just pull up the spreadsheet and very easily look at the date, search their name.
Okay.
Mhm.
Nothing else on that. The next thing, we shared the calendar. It was Nicole and some others probably put Cassidy, put a lot of work into that. I don't know if everybody looked at it, there's a tab calendar, so it's got more structure now for us of which policies should we review instead of, we were just kind of trying to follow through. So it's taken into account any that haven't been looked at in, a couple of years and whatever. And it could, I'm sure, be edited if something pops up that, hey, this policy needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
But at least
And
give
we're
us a
just-
little bit more structure.
And we're just
instead of-
keeping that as a running agenda item on there for everyone to just kind of look at for a second when we do this, so they know what's coming. If it jars something in anybody's brain where they want to request we look at something else sooner, it should be normally a 5-second agenda item, but just keeping it in my radar for everybody. What we're thinking.
Do I make a motion, I think, Shelby?
Yep, go ahead.
So I'll make the motion then to accept the April Governance Committee minutes and approve the final reading of policy 103.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Turn over to Carly.
Alrighty, so we did our quarterly superintendent support committee meeting on March 30th. A lot of that, we talked about potentially doing a market rate adjustment to Jonas's salary. We have had a lot of growth, which has changed his job. That we'll discuss more in closed session. Just briefly talked about making sure the board election process is going to start as of this meeting, and that's on our agenda. And family survey is also on our agenda here. So I will make a motion to accept the superintendent support committee meeting minutes.
I don't think we have to.
We don't have to?
Nope.
Not for these, no.
Oh, okay.
We're just an FYI. Does anyone have any
Minutes are on the others,
questions
that's why I thought.
about our meeting? All right. Move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the board member so requests, in which the item will be removed as a consent agenda item and addressed. Consent agenda items are as follows: the approval of the March 19th, 2026 meeting minutes and the approval of the February-March personnel update. Cassie, if you will do a roll call vote.
Ashley Potasic?
Yes.
William Beck?
Yes.
Lynn Lautenbach?
Yes.
Carly Sherrill?
Yes.
Shelby Poole?
Yes.
Maddie Knudsen? Yes. Joe Valentine?
Yes.
Allison Fit? Yes.
So moved. All right. The board calendar for the 26-27 school year keeps us on the third Thursday of each month. October switched to the 4th because of MEA weekend. November and December have no conflicts with Thanksgiving or Christmas. And this looks good. Any questions on that? Okay. And then the parent satisfaction survey.
Sorry, it was spring break okay?
Spring break's week or two before. Thursday the 18th.
Oh.
So the only challenge with that we had this month is normally committee meetings would be on the week of spring break.
Yeah.
And we can't do the spring meetings the week before, at least for finance, because we won't have financial reports that early.
And it's conferences on the Thursday for governance.
Good catch, actually. I forgot that we moved spring break back, so this one is spring break. So do we want to move it to the 4th then?
To the 25th?
Yeah. Well, then we'd be in the same boat, but we could probably do governance and finance 2 weeks before the board meeting. So it's not during spring break. Could maybe make a note in there that
Governance will be March 4th.
Conferences day, that should be fine.
oh, yeah.
it wasn't the end of the world doing it. I covered that one when we had the same week. As long as you guys have the time to prepare, it was fine financially to do it. It was like the day before.
We'll figure it
One
out.
time
next year.
it
You
was
don't need
okay.
to get there. We'll figure it out. And we did, and then remember we did last month.
Right
we did-
before school board meeting.
We did it right before the school board
Yeah.
meeting, since the week before was, and that was okay, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was fine.
Yeah.
I mean, the only reason not to do that is you don't have the information in the board packet when you get it on Monday, right? But you really would have the finance reports when you get it. You just, if, on the rare occasion, the finance committee, if something changes in the finance reports, you wouldn't have them reviewed by the finance committee before you get them. But usually it doesn't change when the finance committee reviews them, it changes when Dustin and I review them, it's gonna change. So I don't think that would be a problem either. It wasn't this month, or last month, I mean. It wasn't a problem.
Okay.
Good catch.
Well, everyone had a chance to look over the parent survey. It looks very similar to last year's parent survey.
I would
Spanish, I like
imagine,
it.
I guess I didn't see, I don't remember, I'm not a parent, so I didn't see the,
This is much more extensive than last year.
Yes.
okay.
Last year was 4 questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
And we met with admin team, some of the questions came out of Brenda, who you'll meet next month when she does, she's helped us do like some of our needs assessment, looking at all our data and looking at things. She suggested some questions that came out of data she looked at that we added in here. Admin team looked at it, and we really talked about but really, there's a piece of this where this is one of those things when we talk about board responsibilities, superintendent responsibilities, and shared responsibilities. I put this one really in the shared, right? Where we did the work on the front end, but what you guys want to know, you should look at this and we want to make sure that there's not information that you really want to know as board members before we put this into a Google form and send it out.
I like the questions. Are families who have multiple children getting multiple surveys, or is there a way that they could maybe differentiate? So some of these questions are the school as a whole, and some of them are my child feels safe at school, say 2 of your 3 do.
So what we're doing, what the plan is, and Megan Nave said she would do this, is she was gonna have like a place in the survey where it goes, do you have, child in upper school, and then if you do, you answer the same questions again for the upper school, you answered for the lower school already or something.
But she's asked a good question, that if you have multiple kids in lower school, which we do have a lot of families like that, there should be a question at the very beginning, how many children, or something that to distinguish. That's something that we have to work at.
Because their answer might be, some of these about the
Mhm.
children, my interactions with my child's teachers have been positive and productive, and maybe it's been for
Great with
one.
2 of them and not with 1.
Yeah, so just somehow or if there can be, like, you've got your numbers 1 through 5, maybe there can be an option 6, my answer differs between multiple kids, and then it pops up a comment box, or multiple responses, or something. like-
What if we put a note right at the beginning? If you have multiple children attending and you think the answers would differ significantly, you may fill one out for each child, something like that.
Will the Google form allow more than one response from each email?
You can do that setting if you want.
And do
Parents might have to.
parents want to fill out that much? I don't know. We
I
didn't
mean,
have
if
very
they
many
feel
parents fill out
strongly
surveys.
about
Yeah,
something, like, you know what I mean? If they've had a really not great experience and they want to make sure that we're aware of it, I think they
Or
would
to
take
give the
the time.
lowest, if your answer varies based, between your multiple children, give the lowest rating. Is that what we want, though? That's gonna give us a higher percentage of lower overall.
Mhm.
Someone who has 3, 4 kids, that's gonna, so I just, We just need to
And-
call
and
it
it's
out.
It's really hard to know if it's a hair or a significant difference,
Yeah.
if that's a common thing or not a common thing,
Right.
too.
I feel like that will be really, I feel almost like to track everything would be easier to just send one for each individual child and give a box for parents to check, like, I'm only responding once, or I want to do per child.
Mhm.
And then filter it that way.
And if they put per child, then you have another one that says how many children they have, and it
Yeah.
And then
can have,
Can the sections be cascaded only for the per child
You
questions?
can be very picky with Google Forms, but
Yeah.
Okay.
order of questions, yeah.
So fuss with it and go for it.
Because who's gonna like keep track, like, when it gets sent out, are you just gonna send one to every family or one per every child?
I think we were gonna have it this year to have better results, was have teachers send it out multiple times. 'Cause last year the issue was it was just sent by the school.
Yeah,
And I think people will respond better when it's sent by the teacher.
I think so too.
Second chance.
yeah. One of the things that came up that, from the data, was asking some questions about attendance. Because I think I've said this before, but when they talk about the highest performing charter schools that are qualified to get grant money for expansion grant, we are there in every category, every data point you need to get that, except for the percentage of students with consistent attendance.
Is that a lot due to the families who take a month off to go
Well,
away, or is that
we-
not included because they're on leave?
We had theorized that, but really those students are withdrawn before they, usually before they get to that, because they fill out a form ahead of time. So there's.
So then they're not counted for those days?
That's my understanding, yeah. And so that was my working theory, that why we were there, but I think it might be. Now, keep in mind, it's an issue statewide, and it doesn't ask your attendance percentage. Like, our attendance percentage is in the 90s, 93% or something every year. And in other words, on any given day, there's an average about 93% of students here. But it's, the data point is the percentage of students that have 90% attendance or better. And you understand the difference? So you have all your 1,000 students, and, you know, we have more than 10% of them are gone more than 10% of the time. Now, it's more than made up for by the kids that have perfect attendance. It's rare, average up, but that's not, so that data is really misunderstood by a lot of people when they think about what the attendance percentage is. But it is the one data point, like, we could have gotten another $300,000 in dollars for expanding to the high school if we had that one data point high. The rest of everything we have has this as a high-performing charter school in every way. And so we thought asking some questions to get at what parents, how important parents feel it is, and what the reasons for absences are. And of course, it's tricky because it's still a significant minority of your families that are in the whole. There's a whole lot that are 100%, you know, or very, very high attendance. But felt like that was something we wanted to dig into in the survey a little bit in some
And
way.
How are, like if they're gone for a partial day because of doctor's appointment or whatever, is that count, that doesn't count as a missed? Because they're there, like they show up for part of the day, so it counts as present?
For elementary school, where it's either full day, you're either there or not.
Mhm.
For high school and upper school, where you're by periods,
Mm.
I think it is a number of periods, like the percentage of the days is deducted.
The questions are weird for attendance, but I just wonder, like, if you're gonna get the information
Yeah.
off of those, like, I don't know, yeah, I think that the attendance is important. Yeah, I believe that regular attendance is good, but it doesn't mean that I'm sending my kid. I send my kid.
That's a fair point.
I don't know if you're gonna get at the crux of what you're hoping to get at with those questions.
You might be right. That might be
I think they're
something.
throwaway questions.
What would get at what we're
I
trying
don't
to
know.
get? It'd almost be more like, when your students have some, what are the primary drivers, or,
I don't know.
when you say that, you're not
think that you might need to look at the data of who is missing the majority and then ask them privately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the people that are probably missing the majority of the days aren't filling out this survey.
That would be a different way to get at that data, really reaching out to the families that don't have the tens.
And just be like, is there something that we can do to support you?
From a very positive, caring
Right,
space.
exactly.
Yes.
Like I said,
Yeah.
is there some way that we can support you so that your
Non-judgmental.
child can get better attendance? Like, what is something that we can do to support you? But-
Or even just, we're just trying to understand, we're not, we're just trying to understand, so we can figure out best ways for our families.
I like that. Because I agree, it feels throwaway, but it does feel important to discuss.
Right, because
Especially
we
if
do
it's
want to get
it's
to the
like
crux of it.
preventing us from.
But it's almost a
Things
separate
too.
survey that's part of our needs assessment, but isn't part of this survey. That's kind of what we're saying.
Yeah, correct. And, yeah.
But you could still keep the engagement question in a separate section, maybe. My child's motivated to attend school regularly. Because even if the parent's sending them, maybe you get a no.
Could go in the school environment.
Environment, yeah.
Yeah.
The engagement question would fit probably in the school environment one.
Patrick, you on this?
Hmm?
You on
Yep. oh,
thinking that?
oh,
Or the involvement. No, that you're talking more like can the parents get involved
But
in that one?
well, let's not get too much more into
Yeah.
wordsmithing it. Separate from the attendance piece, generally, does this get at what we want, the information we want from our parents? Can we proceed with, there's nothing big missing that he wants? I think that's the main thing we need from the board right now. Except the good feedback that we will address.
I mean, at the end, you could just also have an optional, anything else you'd like to share. Not that, you know.
Is there anything that we want to get at with, a lot of our parents and a lot of our families do end up leaving after that like there's a big chunk that do leave once they get through 5th grade. So what programming are they looking for middle school and high school? That would maybe be
I think
visible.
from the surveys we've done with the 5th grade families.
Oh,
we've
you're
connect-
getting it there.
We've
Perfect.
connected with every, and we have
Perfect.
places for notes and stuff. I think we're pretty well handled on it.
Perfect.
For 5th grade and 8th grade.
Perfect.
We've really connected with every family.
Perfect.
I think we have that.
So that was done
Already.
great.
Yeah.
All right. School start time?
So I hopefully this is super quick. We had a discussion in fall. I think we left with a shared understanding. I just want to make sure we have that shared understanding is correct before I send the message to families. And just recheck in with the group on that real quick before you. We talked about sometime in the October, November, about really, we're probably going to need to have a separate start time for the upper school and the lower school for a variety of reasons, including really as we get more kids, the biggest one being as we get more kids in the upper school and it becomes a higher percentage of our students, we probably don't want 20, 30 upper school kids on a bus with kindergartners and first graders and so on and so forth. That being the biggest one. The second, another reason is we just have a shortage of gym space that will allow us to have the upper school access the gym before lower school starts as a way to have ed classes that work for upper school. In terms of extracurricular activities and even jobs for students as they get into older grades, the later start time is problematic. So for lots of reasons, and we talked about that, we've done some initial research. It probably would be, when we do eventually go to that 7:45 start roughly for the upper school in order for it to be able to use for the same buses.
And
Also-
has busing agreed with that time?
Yeah, that was coordinated with busing. Well, the person we coordinated with is no longer with the company, but we looked at it and had her really run the data and figure out what time with where our kids leave, it would need to, if we're using the same buses to take the kids, upper kids and the lower kids, which should save us money. It's also something I've requested. We met with transportation a few weeks back and requested them to give us some estimates, you know, if we have approximately 15 buses and for the lower, and then like 8 for the upper, how much can we save on those 8 buses by it being the same driver and then not having to go to another school and come all the way here. So we're asking them to give us some estimates on that, which I have not gotten yet. But we know it's gonna be a lot more expensive, which is why we're not doing it next year.
You're right,
Right.
okay, this would be for the 27-28
So
school year?
the language we agreed, that I threw out that everybody kind of agreed to, but it was at the end of the discussion, was that communicating to families, so that it's not a last minute bait and switch for families as they choose schools, that we anticipate needing to have separate start time for upper school, possibly as early as fall 27.
I agree with that vague language.
So we're not saying it's for sure fall 27, we can continue to evaluate and whatever, but we're also not just dropping this on people when we make a final decision next February or whatever it is. And it's out of the blue, and the family has chosen to send their kid here, and there's lotteries at other schools that might start later, that they've already, you know, that kind of thing. So we're putting it out, this is what we think we're doing, but, and that we're gonna need to do this at some point, could be as possibly as early as fall 27. And so I was gonna put that in some of the communications I'm sending to families. I just wanna make sure we're all on the same page with that language, before it comes from me, that we feel like that's right. We good with that?
Yes.
That's the whole discussion.
Good. Patrick?
All right. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what next year is going to look like and moving forward, and kind of with the theme of anchoring in community. One of the things I want to start with is, try to be brief, is when I came in last year, I was very aware that I was stewarding an existing story that was very successful, very much part and rooted in community. And what I'm most looking forward now as we moved in was this, Jonas and I worked about manageable growth and having this growth and when we needed to grow in order to be able to add grades. And as you have noticed in those other 2 buildings, it's been a while since we've had some consistent grades, consistent number of classrooms. So what I'm excited about as we move forward is stabilizing not only our configuration, but also our classrooms. Okay, we have 8 kindergarten classrooms, all right? That's what we're gonna have, all right? That's stabilized. Now we can start working on the programming. We're gonna be K through 6. That's a totally different model in education than K through 7 or K through 8, right? That is a substance of relationships, of nurturing, building the roots, all right? So one of the things that's gonna be important to all of that is that we are consistent to our beliefs, and in a K through 6 building, it's essential that we focus on the family as much as the child. Okay? So, this vision is grounded on certain belief statements that I know we all agree on, okay? The first belief is every student deserves a high-quality teacher. So what are we doing as an organization to retain these high-quality teachers? I'm constantly amazed. We have a bunch of teachers who work in our building as paras, and that most of the time would make a principal nervous. But they regularly come back and said, I used to like my kids' teachers. Now I can't believe these teachers, what they do and how they serve these kids. So some of the steps that we use to retaining our
Patrick, you meant
Parents.
parents that have kids that are paras. You said teachers that have.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Parents.
Parents that are paras regularly. They speak Exner, at least the teachers.
I know what you're saying.
Okay, sorry, thank you. Dedicated to small class sizes. Not gonna go elsewhere, grass greener, I've been there, and have class sizes like this. It allows us to communicate to the parents regularly, it allows us to build those relationships. Commitment to the administrative support. Colleen will be starting next year, but the amount of support that we have just specifically for classroom and grades is something worth celebrating. Continuous learning, strong prescribed curriculum, okay? You come in here, so many teachers that we've interviewed for next year, and by the way, the amount of teachers that we've interviewed, and Jonah can attest to, have been cut by other districts. That was the common theme in our virtual job fair. And that the fact that we're growing and being able to hire is one. And you know, the biggest thing that they say when they come in to interview that second time, or they meet with the teachers, they can't believe the curriculum. They're so used to making up their own. And when an individual makes up their own, you can only imagine what that does for the consistency of the child. So, strong prescribed curriculum, okay. Every student deserves a safe and welcoming community. We want students feeling safe. They're known, they're respected, and they're treated consistently. I think we all believe those first three, but we don't understand that last one, treated consistently. Okay? That's kids being held accountable. Accountable to good behavior as well as accountable when they make mistakes and they're learning. Okay? As a K through 6 program, we're always going to do this. I see it every day. We're leading with relationships. One of the questions needs to be on our survey, and I believe it does. It's the one I look at first all the time. Does the parent believe that there's an adult in that building that their child trusts and will go to without anything? If that answer is yes and that answer is high, we're doing something right. School that creates clear and consistent expectations, where children feel safe. They feel safe when they know what to expect, right? A school that partners with family, communication is consistent and positive. I see that regularly. I was looking at Miss Jocelyn. She is anybody had her as a teacher, as a child, as a teacher? I was looking at her communication chart. I don't know how she had enough time to do that. But she's constantly always positive, and she's just an example of so many other teachers doing that. And then the goal is, again, kids can do hard things. We're building resilient children. I think parents here, that's why you brought them here, right? For the rigor, for the building of resilience. Okay, so that's going to drive our decision making, all of these certain beliefs. We believe every student can learn at high levels. Again, I go back to this because I get asked this all the time. Core knowledge is what we teach. That's a full stop. We don't have room for wiggling out of that. If we wiggle out of that, we've lost our rudder. All right? So if you see it, call us on it. We believe it. It's research-based, years of success. You got it. Same. Consistency across grade levels ensures alignment, equity, and excellence in learning. So again, that's how we're challenging kids. This is kind of a new one that I'm more excited about, around stabilizing our grade levels. Just being quite candid here, for the last couple of years, 6th, 7th grade have been kind of in limbo in our schools. They didn't know if they were going to be middle school or if they were going to be grade school, and so they were left kind of with underserved, let's put it that way, undersupported. What a great opportunity next year to just call it out. We are a K through 6 building. And what should 6th grade be? 6th grade should be what everybody's looking forward to getting to. Because that's when they can really identify themselves and see themselves as the leaders of the school, from teachers to students. A little bit more news with Colleen. I've charged Colleen with being kind of our leadership director next year. She's going to be working with the upper grades. I'm really asking her to create opportunities for our 6th grade and to envision what that would look like for them to be true leaders throughout the school, and that preparation for that. daily leadership role, school-wide, we talked about virtues of the month, and already, that high behavioral expectations and support. How do we teaching our kids to be good citizens? So that's basically the 4 belief systems. Basically what we're doing next year as we go, we're solidifying, right? And we're double down on what the things that we know work, right? And we're moving forward that way. So, sorry that was a little long.
But really, Patrick, when you're presenting, really focus on the 6th grade into this leadership piece, right? And this piece that you're saying, like, that's really the focus. Of course, it's gonna be a little tricky next year, 7th grade not still being in the building until December, right? Sort of feel that way.
It doesn't take away from the fact that I believe that our goal to the 7th grade teacher is, this is going to be practice for you 7th graders to get to the upper school. Everything we do, 7th grade will look more like middle school next year in that half piece, because they're getting ready for what their expectations are in the upper school. 6th grade will be doing that too, but I want them starting to get ready for that leadership role as they end the year.
Will 6th grade still rotate to all their core, and then 5th grade is still rotating 3 times?
3 times.
Okay.
Mhm.
So 5th grade is kind of practice for the 6th grade, where 6th grade they rotate a bit more?
Yep.
Okay.
But there is some discussion around long-term exactly what 6th grade wants to look like in terms of their daily schedule, right? Whether they have 5 classes or 6, or, like, one of the challenges is going to 6th grade while you're still in the core knowledge curriculum. It is challenging to complete the whole core knowledge sequence in only 55 minutes a day, particularly for that majority.
That's a challenge across the school.
Yeah.
It's a challenge across the school. It isn't limited to that. So I don't want to give that as an out to what we want to do.
Right. But still maybe some visioning on what the day looks like, is all I'm saying, maybe still be in the future, in addition to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brother.
Oh, I'll take Ben's thing on here. Before our board meeting next month, there's gonna be a groundbreaking ceremony. We'd like at least some of you to be at. We'll send you information that they'll take pictures, and building people will be here, and the mayor's gonna be here or something.
Golden shovel.
Maybe something like that. Ben's coordinating it, so he'll probably send invites.
Will ground already officially be broken at that point?
It sounds like they'll already have been doing some stuff, but that will be the official groundbreaking.
Do you have a date on that for, you should have board members that get that board members?
It's right before the next board meeting.
Oh.
The board meeting next month. Yeah.
Okay, so this is groundbreaking for the building, but where does the playground?
It's all part of the same project.
Okay,
And that part should be done though before school starts.
yeah, the playground would be quickish. I say quick, probably should not gotten some.
Relatively quick.
Yeah.
Compared to.
And Ben's going to present more on a couple things next month. He's going to present on activities, that full activities program, where that's at next month. But we can also have him do a little more on some of the pieces with the project. But I know earlier in the project, they're going to be doing the parking lot across the street to create parking as we lose parking here, for fall. And then the playground is supposed to be done before school starts. And the entire remodel of this building is supposed to be done before school starts. It's just the addition that will not be done. And the addition timeline is December 26th is what's in the contract.
Perhaps we can invite the students from the student parliament to the groundbreaking too, just to get some leaders in pictures too.
Love that idea. I'll try and remember to mention that.
Yep.
Think of it. Love that idea.
All right. Elections.
Yeah, Cassie, once you got all the info.
Okay, so we have to do our call for board candidate nominations today. So I'll send out a communication to community and parent square. But self-nominations will be able to begin after today. And they'll be due May 22nd. The last week of May will be the voting period. And then we'll have election results in June. So a couple things that we need to decide tonight is we need 3 election officials. Typically it's me, Mr. Bugan, and then one of you. There's nothing you really do, so if anyone would like to join.
Other than be there counting the votes.
I mean, it's, yeah, if you want to log in with me, I just open it and it tells me.
Witness it.
Because I'm a witness, so I'm not cheating. So if anyone wants to just hang out with me for, cool, thank you. So Ms. Lautenbach and I and Mr. Bugan, and then, so I'll do all the organization with that. It's just through electionrunner.com. So we have 3 open seats this year. So we have for community seat, William Beck's seat is open. So you'd have to complete a self-nomination. Teacher seat is Ms. Pint, and parent seat is Carly. So you guys.
And then
And me too.
you as
And my
well.
seat
Oh, well,
What, the,
we would do that
That'd be a,
Separate
later,
appoint-
and it'd be
special
an
one, isn't it?
appointment.
Okay.
Yeah.
But,
because when does your
My term's
admin
not up for
contract
another year.
start?
July 1st.
July 1st.
So you would stay seated until July.
Okay.
So,
But isn't everybody who's being elected for July 1st?
yeah, technically.
But it would just be a 1-year term though, to serve out the rest of my
Right.
term.
Yeah,
Isn't
it
that how
would just be,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
typically
So
that
I-
would be an appointed one.
Yeah.
I was appointed when Mike moved from parent seat to community.
Yeah.
So let's say we have 2 or more teachers go, we could always reach out to the second, if the board wanted to,
Yeah.
reach out to the second one who got second place and see if they wanted to take over anyway. So then Carly brought up changing the self-nomination questions, just to kind of make it more specific to the board and what skills and experience we want to learn from them. So I had in there the revised nomination kind of questions for them to kind of complete. So that's what we're gonna approve tonight. So if you're able to look that over.
If you guys agree, hopefully, like one of the old questions was what would be good quality for a board member? But it's not, what qualities do you possess that would be good for the board? So
So we switched it to like, why are you nominating yourself? In a mini self-introduction, what makes WLA's mission and vision meaningful to you? What relevant skills, experience do you possess, legal, financial, educational? And lastly, are you able to commit to the necessary hours, the committee work, and keeping up with email communication?
Yep.
So one of you would have to make a motion for that, if you want to, or if there's any other questions about the election process or.
Any feedback on the questions? You all good with the questions? B was our former A. Didn't change.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I'll send that to parents for tomorrow.
When do we assign roles? July?
Typically July, once
Okay.
we have more
Okay.
seats. So something I guess to keep on your radar if you want to remain in your current, like,
Didn't we assign in June?
I think,
'Cause
because
we-
we did to June, because we didn't want newly elected people to be in anyway.
Yeah.
So just start thinking of if you want to stay your positions. Obviously, we're going to need a new board treasurer, so if that sounds interesting to any of you.
We'll know the results by the June meeting,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll know the minute they're done. So
which is, I don't remember the date.
May 29th at 5 p.m.
At the June, we just,
So June, we
We
can
just
appoint the
we just
officers or
certify.
whatever. Right, because they'll have to do their education before we can appoint in July.
Mhm. Okay. And at the May one, I will have majority of the self-nominations, so we can have those, but.
I will say now, because I'm not gonna be at the next meeting, it's our 8th grade graduation that night. So I will not be at the next meeting, but I do intend to step down from board chair, so I would love to not be nominated for it. I have taken on a lot more in my role at work, and so I will stay on the board until my term is up and help the transition of whoever chooses to step up for board chair. I've spoken a lot with Carly, and I think she will be great, and I intend to nominate her when we get to that point. But then
As long as
Carly's
the
position will be
community-
open, and Colleen's position will be open, so now that we kind of are getting our board more established, be thinking about what role will be best for you to offer your services in. All right, moving into closed meeting. Our meeting will now be closed as permitted by section 13D05, subdivision 3A, to discuss negotiation strategy. It is 6:34 PM. All right, further board communication, future items, again, just be thinking about what role you would like to step up into moving forward. I will not be here next month, but I will be back in June. And we'll have hopefully good news on our elections. Otherwise, our next regular meeting will be held here Thursday, May 21st at 5:30 p.m. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any further conversation? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.